Yo guys, what's up, and welcome to a guide on how to resolve connection issues in Zero Hour. It's worth saying this guide is going to be on Windows 10, however it probably will still apply to things like Windows 7, maybe even Windows Vista as well, but everything I'm going to be doing now is right on Windows 10. So I get messages from people all the time asking how to resolve connection issues. If you're familiar with the game at all, then you'll be very familiar with this screen where you're waiting to connect to players, waiting for probe response. And then you'll also be very familiar with this screen where you're unable to connect to players as well. So it's a very big problem in Zero Hour, probably responsible for a lot of people quitting over the last few years, or even over the entire life of Zero Hour. It's been a big problem, frustrates people and leads people to quit the game. So I put together a quick list on how to resolve these kind of issues. It's worth saying I'm not some kind of technical guru. I have played the game for a number of years though, so I've mostly played with no issues. So hopefully some of these tips can at least help you a little bit. Okay, so without further ado, then we're going to jump straight into it. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go to our desktop. We're going to find our Zero Hour shortcut. Mine is right here, called Zero Hour Launcher. We're going to right click on it. We're going to go to Properties. Once we're in Properties, we're going to go to Compatibility. And the things we're going to look for here, we're going to look for two things. We're going to look for the run this program as administrator. It's shaded out here on my screen for some reason, but we'll come back to that in a second. And also run this program in compatibility mode 4. And then from this drop down, you're going to search for Windows XP Service Pack 3. It is shaded out there on my screen at the moment. If yours is the same, then what you're going to do is go down here and you're going to go to change settings for all users. And then you're just going to select it in here. So you'll see run this program for administrator. You're going to select that, make sure it's ticked. And then up here, you're going to select run this program in compatibility mode 4, and in the list you're going to find Windows XP Service Pack 3. I think this is because the game was created back in 2003, and I think most people were on XP then, so this game is created for that. And I think it was XP Service Pack 3 that was out at the time. That would make sense. But this is the advice everyone gives to try and set that up. So make sure you do that first. Press apply, press OK, OK that. And then the first thing I would do is every step that I'm going to say throughout this video is once you've done that step 1, boot the game up, try it and see if it works. If not, we'll come back to step 2. Okay, so if that didn't work so far, we're going to jump straight into step 2 then, which is looking at your Windows firewall and adding an exception to it. So to do that, we're going to click on the start menu down here, or this flag. We're just going to start typing. So we're going to type in firewall. It should bring up the search, and we're going to look for Windows Defender Firewall. Going to click on that, and then once this screen appears, we're going to click on allow an app or feature through Windows Defender Firewall. So we're going to click on that. You can also find this through the control panel, by the way. Once you do find this list, this is a list of everything that your Windows Firewall is allowing to be passed through it. So all the different applications that you might have added or have automatically been added while you've been installing things. So you'll notice at the moment I can't edit anything. So we're going to click change settings. This suddenly allows me to either allow another app, or I can start ticking and deticking things. So we're going to scroll down and we're going to try and find Command & Conquer General Zero Hour is already in the list for me. We're going to press details and just make sure it's the correct path. So in my case it's C program files, origin games, Command & Conquer General Zero Hour, and then the generals.exe. If it is not in the list, then what you want to do is go to this allow another app. So we're going to click on that. Where it says path, we want to try and browse. So when we browse, we're going to go to this PC. We're going to go to C. We're going to go to program files. We're going to go to origin games. Of course, we're on Windows 10, so on Windows 10 you have to install origin games to allow you to play it. And we're going to go into C&C General Zero Hour. Then we're going to go into the same folder again, and then in here we've got the generals.exe. And we've got a general's origin. I think I've added just both of these for safekeeping. I'm not 100% sure if it makes a difference or not, but I've just added both. If I try and open that now, it'll browse to that folder, and it's going to show me that file. It's not going to allow me to add it right now because I've already got it in the list, but I would also do the same for that generals.origin, add it again. So you'll see that's the one that's automatically installed for me, but I've also manually added it somehow again. I don't know how I've added it again. I have done just for safekeeping, I guess. Don't know if that messes it up. We've also got this general's origin. That's general's origin.exe. I've also added Game Ranger if you're a Game Ranger user, and I'm pretty sure that is it. So make sure you press OK when you do this. Also, just for safekeeping as well, just check that you've entered both boxes, just in case you're on a private or public network. If you're not sure, just tick both boxes and press OK. Let's just make sure the other ones are okay. Yes, they're all ticked. We're going to press OK. We're going to close that, and then we're going to boot up the game and try that. Okay, so if those didn't work so far, we're going to jump into step 3, which is about checking for any antivirus software that might be blocking your connection. If you know straight away that you don't have any of these antivirus software installed, you might as well skip to step 4. I'll put the times for the steps in the description. But if you're unsure, then you might want to just hang around with it for this step. So we're going to click on this little arrow here to show hidden icons, and you're going to look for anything that might be of antivirus security. So like AVG, for example, Norton Security, BullGuard, things like this might be blocking your connection. So I'm just going to have a look through and just make sure basically that I don't have any antivirus software running. I know I don't on this computer at the moment. I don't have anything running, but if you did have AVG or something, it would show a little icon there. And then once you've found out what software you're running, you then want to find out how you add an exception to it. So either just open it up, or you can just go to Google how to add an exception for BullGuard, and then you're just gonna like click on whatever link and try and find out how you're gonna start allowing things through your antivirus. Then once that's done, once that's added, I imagine you'll do it similar to with the Windows Firewall. You're going to browse to the exe and allow it again. Once that's added, press OK, confirm it, or apply it, and then boot the game up and see if that works. Okay, so if you had no luck so far, we're going to want to look at opening or forwarding ports. Now, before we can do this, it's very important that we set what's called a static IP address. And there's two ways you can do this. You can either do this through your router or through Windows. I'm going to cover both ways, but I'm going to cover the router way first. So to do it the router way, we first of all need our router IP address. If you know this already, then great. If you don't know it, then keep watching. We're going to go to the bottom left, we're going to go to the start menu, and we're going to start typing CMD in the search. So we're going to bring out the command prompt. It'll bring back this little black screen with a little flashing cursor where we're going to enter our text. Here we're going to start typing IP and then config. This is all one word. You're going to press enter. It's going to bring you back a list of information. Here you've got default gateway. That's the only bit of information we care about, and that is the number of the router, of my router. Your number might be similar to this, it might be exactly the same, might be slightly different, but it's default gateway. You need to remember that number because we're going to need it in a second, or write it down. So I'm going to remember that number. We're going to close this. I'm going to open a web browser. In my case, I'm using Chrome. And then in the browser bar, we're going to start typing the number 192.168.0.1 for me. So inside of here, we're going to be looking for to reserve an IP address for our computer. So first of all, we need to log in. So common passwords and usernames is usually admin or admin password, something like that, or even username, password, the words username and password. If you don't know it, it might be on the side of your router, it might be in your router manual, you might be able to phone up your ISP. Usually it's going to be on the side of your router though. I'm going to enter my password. It's worth noting I'm on a Virgin Media, so I've got a Virgin Media Superhub 3, that's my router. But there is also a website called portforward.com. And on here it's got a list of all routers, and then here find in the list your make, and it's got all kinds of tutorials on how to do stuff inside of there. So we're going to close that. So I've logged into my router, and in advanced settings I've got an option called DHCP. Yours might be called something similar or something slightly different. If it's not called exactly that, or you can't see it, keep flicking through the options until you can find something with this section. So you're looking for reserved IP addresses. Now my list is currently refreshing. Basically, every device that connects to your router is assigned a number. So you'll see there, my desktop there, that's my desktop. I know that just because I know that's the number. Is assigned 192.168.0.2. That is the number of it assigned. So then Bernard, whoever the hell that is, connecting to my Wi-Fi is on 0.5, or sorry, 0.5 at the end. And then I've got like an Amazon stick that's on like 0.19. So everything has got an individual number. Now before you can do port forwarding or port opening, you want to ensure that your number always stays the same. So in my case, I've got my computer number and I've got my MAC address. I'm going to select my computer, so you'll see there it's add reserved rule. It's got my my number, and then I'm going to reserve it an IP address. So if we go back to the CMD prompt, I'm going to type in IP config again. Now you can see IPv4 address is my IP address at the moment. It's 192.168.0.2. So if you don't already have something reserved, then you probably want to reserve the one that you've got at the moment. The lower the number, the better, I believe. So in my case, it's number 2. So I'm also going to remember that. And then here I'm going to type in IP address. It's going to be 192.168.0, which is default. And I'm going to enter the number 2. And then we're going to add rule. You see the rule already exists. Basically, it's going to say that my MAC address, which is my computer, is always going to be reserved for 192.168.0.2. I can delete it, but I'm going to leave it in there in this case, and then apply changes. And then that rule should stay there, and every time you boot up your computer, your router will automatically give you that IP address. So it's one way of maintaining a static IP. So that's the first way to set a static IP or reserve an IP address. If you can't find this option, or you're unable to do it, or your router doesn't support it, we can log out. You can actually just close this whole window rather. And then we're going to want to do it through the Windows way. So to do it through Windows, we're going to find this monitor at the bottom right. If it's not there, you're going to click the arrow and find it. It should say network over it. We're going to right click and we're going to go to Open Network and Internet Options. Now here, this is the way it currently looks on Windows 10. I think it has changed over the last few years, but this is the way it currently is. We're going to find Ethernet. So if your computer is connected via a wire, you should see Ethernet there, and you should be able to find the options here. If you're connected by Wi-Fi, I believe Wi-Fi might show up there. If you're connected by another way, it should be there. But as I know I'm connected through a wire, I'm going to click Ethernet, and then the thing we need to click here is change adapter options. So it should bring up this. This is my network controller. I'm going to right click on this. I'm going to go to properties. And then in this list here, so this connection uses the following items. In this list, we're going to go to Internet Protocol version 4 or IPv4. I'm going to go to properties. Now inside of here, we're going to be able to do it manually, setting an IP address. So we're going to click use the following IP addresses. Just to show you as well, we're going to bring up the CMD prompt again. It's a really handy prompt. We're going to type in CMD, bring back the command prompt. We're going to type in IP config. Slightly different though this time. We're going to press space /all. It just brings back a more comprehensive list of information that we're going to need for this section. So we're going to press enter. So it brings back loads of information. We're going to use this information to populate this box. Let's see how we can get this. So first of all, we're going to want to type our IP address that we want. So I know my number from before was 192.168.0.2, I think it was. Let's find it in this list. Where is my list? So there it is, and you'll see it says preferred there actually, because I've already got it set as reserved as we did before. So in this box we're going to type exactly that. We want to keep that. So 192.168.0.2. Sorry, .0 and then .2. Okay, subnet mask. When you start typing here, it might populate automatically, like mine has done, and in that case, you're probably going to leave it. If you're unsure about what the number should be, you should see here on this command prompt, subnet mask. We've got 255.255.255.0. Apparently, that's standard for the way I'm set up. I think it's like a class 4 or something. And then we're going to make sure that number matches there, so we can see it matches already. So nice and easy. Default gateway is the address for your router, so you can remember it from before, or you can find it here. So you see a default gateway, a simple case of just overtyping it. So 192.168.0 and then space 1. Okay, preferred DNS. We're going to look in this list again for DNS server. So you'll see DNS server I've got there. I've got 2 numbers. I believe we just enter them exactly as they are. 194.168.4 and then 100, and in this bottom one we're going to do 194.168.8.100. I think it's worth ticking validate settings upon exit, so you're going to tick that and then press OK. I'm not going to press OK right now because mine's already set up through the router way, but you will press OK. I believe when you do that, your computer should temporarily disconnect from the internet and then reconnect. I have seen it before where there is issues doing this and it won't connect to the internet. If that does happen, then you can revert back to the way it was before by just clicking that, and by clicking that, and then you'll be back on. But if it does work, hopefully it does. If you've done everything correctly, you should exit out of this, and your computer then should always have that the number you assigned, so in my case .2. Okay, so once you've done that, then you want to close the command prompt. You're going to just press OK on this, so let's assume that's all done. We're going to press OK there, we're going to close this, and we're going to close this. And now we're going to jump into forwarding ports. So to do that, we're going to go back to our web browser, and we're going to log back into our router. Okay, so we're going to want to be doing forwarding or opening ports. Again, if you're unsure on how to do this on your exact router, you can go to a website called portforward.com. Again, list of all routers. Find your one in the list. In my case, I've got a Virgin, so I'm just going to do a Control and F. I'm going to find Virgin Media. Close this little ad that always comes up. And then it's got even the types. I know I've got a Super Hub 3, sorry, or a Hub 3 as it's called. And then within here, it shows me everything on how to like open and forward ports and stuff. So there's a massive guide there on how to do it. Just find your make and there'll be an explanation how to do it. It's pretty similar on all of them though. I've had a number of routers and it is pretty similar process. So what we're going to do on mine, we're going to go to advanced settings, and then we're going to go to security, and then here we're going to go to port forwarding. So I believe opening ports and setting up a port forward is the same thing. You'll hear people say that it's different things, but it actually means the same. And then here's the list of the ports that you actually want to set up for 0 hour. So I'll just I've actually got it on my desktop. Got a list here of the ports you need to open. So that's for Canonical General 0 Hour to work as of 2018. It requires these ports. So TCP ports, you've got 80, you've got this one, this one, this one, this one, and then UDP ports, you've got this one and this one, just 2. So what have we got? 5. We've got 7 in total. So then we're going to go back to this. We're going to go to create a new rule. So initially this would be completely blank for me. This is because I've already set it up. We're going to go to create new rule. Local IP. Now this is why we set up a static IP earlier, because when you're forwarding or opening ports, you can only do it to one IP address. Now if you're booting up your PC and your PC is changing IP address every single time, then the ports are only going to be open when you luckily land on the number 2 or the one you set it up to. So we know we're number 2 now, and we're going to be that 100% of the time. Remember to double check that. You can always go to the CMD prompt and type in ipconfig once you've rebooted your computer and make sure you're still on that number 2. So we're going to enter number 2, and then here we're going to do 80 because I know the first port I need to open is 80. So we can see here we're going to do 80, 80, 80, and 80. You might only have 2 of these boxes, you might only have 1, you might have all 4 like me. In my case, I'm just going to enter all 4 the same. The protocol, so it's TCP. So we're going to find the list, either both or TCP. By selecting both, it doesn't make any difference, by the way, you only need the TCP. And then enabled, you want to choose on, and then you're going to add rule. In my case, I'm not going to add the rule. I don't even think it'll allow me because I've already got it set up there. But you're just going to add rule, and then you're going to repeat for all of the others. So I'll just show you the list again, how we would do it. Let's say we want to do that 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going to go to create a new rule. Again, we're going to enter number 2. We're going to do ports 4, 3, 2, 1. You can just copy and paste that down, down, down. This time it's going to be a UDP port. I'm going to select UDP and then enabled on. I'm just going to add rule. Now with my router, someone technical told me that adding them in ascending order. So start with the smallest and then go to the biggest. So in my case, I added 80 first, then 4, 3, 2, 1 was the next biggest, then 6, 6, 6, 7 was the next biggest, and so on. I can't remember why I have that port open. It might be for something else, but the ports you need for 0 hour are these ones, and add them in ascending order as I just said. Once that's all done, so you've added all your rules, you're going to press apply changes, or whatever your router says. It might just say save or whatever, and then we're going to want to log out. That's basically your IP address is now static. All your ports are forwarded or opened, and you should be good to go. So give 0 hour a try now. Maybe reboot your PC. Try it a couple of times, a couple of games, and then if it still doesn't work, we're going to jump into the next step. Okay, so let's say you've been online, you've tried it a few times, and that's still not working. Nothing is connecting. So the next thing you want to do is you're going to want to boot up 0 hour. Select 0 hour, and we're going to go to the main menu. Just wait for this to boot up. Then we're going to want to go to options, and then the first thing you want to check here is that your online IP and your LAN IP, someone told me that these have to be the same numbers. If they aren't the same numbers, then you may have messed up your static IP thing. You may have entered some numbers wrong. You may want to go back and just double check, but they should be the same number. As long as they're the same number, they should work. We're going to go to Firewall Port Override, and then here we're going to select a port that we want the firewall to override through. So we're going to go to 900, which is one of the 0-hour ports that we opened before, and then we're going to want to press send delay, and then we're going to press accept. So then you just want to go back in, check that saved. So it's 29,900, send delay ticked, and then you want to boot up 0-hour and give that a try. Okay, so you've been trying 0-hour, everything is still not working, you're not connecting to any players. Now we're going to try and isolate the problem. So the first thing we're going to do in step 7 is we're going to turn off our router firewall. So we're going to log into our router as normal using the number you found from before with your username and password. In my case, I'm going to go to advanced settings, I'm going to go to security, I'm going to go to firewall. If you want to know where your firewall settings are, you can always Google it or YouTube it, check your router manual, or you can just probably find it pretty easily just by navigating through the menus. It's pretty self-explanatory under the security firewall. Under firewall protection here, I'm going to detick that, and then I'm going to apply changes. In my case, I've already tried this in the past, so I know it doesn't make a difference in my case, so I'm just going to reapply that. What you're going to do is detick that, you're going to apply or save whatever your router asks you to do, then you're going to log out. You're going to maybe reboot your PC, try out a few games. If it doesn't work, then you can always come back on and switch this on at a later time. But what you're trying to do right now is isolate the problem. Okay, so we're going to log out of this. I'm going to say we've tried that, and the next thing we want to do is if you have any antivirus software that you added an exception, or maybe you didn't add an exception before, if you're still running that software, what you're going to do right now is just temporarily disable it or turn it off. So usually you can just find it here. You can either like right click and exit whatever program you're running, or sometimes you have to protect itself, it doesn't allow you to exit. Sometimes you actually have to boot up the software. Let's say for example I boot up my Roccat thing, then you're going to want to boot it up, and somewhere in the menu somewhere there will be a way to disable it. You want to temporarily disable it, start up 0-hour, see if that is your problem. If it is your problem, then congratulations, you've isolated the problem, and you know maybe you need to change the software, or maybe you need to add an exception somewhere. If it doesn't resolve the problem, then always just go back in and reactivate it. Okay, so you've tried switching off your router firewall, you've tried switching off or temporarily disabling your antivirus software, but it's still not working. The next thing you want to do is switch off your Windows firewall. So in the bottom left, we're going to go back to the start menu, we're going to start typing firewall, or just fire, and we're going to go to check firewall status. Again, you can find this through the control panel. This left hand side, we're going to go to turn Windows Defender firewall on or off. And then here you want to select turn off, and then we're going to press OK on that. You'll see it'll give you all these kind of warnings and red X's and stuff, but we just want to isolate the problem at this point. So we're going to close that, we're going to boot up 0-hour and see if that works. Okay, so step 10, we're going to want to log back into our router, and we're going to want to find an option called enable DMZ or DMZ. So we're going to go to, in my case, advanced settings. I actually don't know where it is. I think it's under security again. Where it says DMZ or DMZ. I think I'm turning American, saying DMZ. Then we're going to want to find this DMZ function, and we're going to press enabled. We're going to type in our IP address that we set before. So in my case it's 2. Whether you set 2 or 5 or 10 or whatever you set, you're going to enter there and press apply changes. Now, as far as I'm aware, this just ignores all the port forwarding stuff and just opens everything. So this is this is kind of why I've left it until step 10. So you're going to want to apply changes, again, log out, maybe reboot your PC, try a few games and see if this works. Okay, so if everything's still not working, we're going to want to try step 11. So step 11 is it only applies if you're on a Wi-Fi connection to your router. So if you're on Wi-Fi, you want to try maybe switch into a wired connection. In my case, my computer's upstairs, my router's downstairs. I've got this huge cable that goes all the way down the house, down the stairs, under the carpet, and to the router. I find it so much more reliable and so much quicker using a cable than Wi-Fi. There's no interference and no lag. Also, it may help your issues. So I do recommend trying that. If that doesn't work, you're going to want to try step 12, which you may want to contact your internet service provider. Because I heard some internet service providers do block certain ports and certain applications and things at their end. I'm not 100% sure on the technicalities of it, but I do hear reports sometimes of ISPs blocking certain things and blocking certain ports their end. So give your ISP a call, connect through to their customer service or technical line, explain your issues that you're having, and maybe they can help you. Okay, so step 13. Now, this is only going to be possible for some people. The people lucky enough to have 2 devices in their house that they can install 0-hour on and try it. So in my case, I might have a PC, but I might have a spare laptop lying around that I don't really use. I'm going to install 0-hour on that and then try all the same steps as before. and see if I face the same issues. If I face the same issues, then it's highly likely that it is my router or internet connection that is the problem. If suddenly it connects right away, suddenly that I've switched PC or switched laptop, then it's highly likely that it's my original PC or something software related on my original PC that is the problem. It's helping you narrow down what the problem might be. Once you've tried that, if there's still no luck, then you want to maybe pack up your PC or pack up your laptop and take it somewhere else where you can connect to a different internet connection. So maybe you can go next door to your mates, maybe you can go to your girlfriends, maybe something like that, and you can try a different internet connection. If you face all the same issues, again, it's likely to be your actual PC or laptop. If suddenly it connects right away, then again, you've narrowed it down. It's going to be your ISP or your own router. One other thing you can do, my last final step, step 15, you can try a different router. So I thought about in the past actually getting rid of my Virgin Media Superhub and actually thought about getting a custom router that you can buy online. I heard the custom ones are usually much better if you get a decent make one. Maybe that is your issue if you've narrowed it down to being your internet connection issue. Okay, that wraps up this video then, guys. That's all the tips I've got on trying to get Zero Hour back up and running. If you did like this video, it did help you out, remember to leave a thumbs up. If there's anything I've got wrong in this video or anything that you know a better way of doing or anything else, any other tips that I might have missed completely, remember to leave it in the comments. Also look out for people in the comments trying to help them out if you know how to resolve their issues too. So yeah, cheers for watching, guys. Remember to subscribe and I'll see you next time.
Crashing